Karoline Leavitt stood on the Fox News Hannity stage, the spotlight shining on her deep blue suit. At 27, she was the White House press secretary, and her heart raced before the big moment. Just moments before, De Niro had stepped out and declared, "Trump is a disaster, and Leavitt is his puppet." His harsh words sparked a wave of reactions, with applause and whistles echoing through the crowd. Leavitt gripped the microphone tightly, her eyes burning with determination. She didn't flinch, even with millions watching. De Niro, with 2 Oscars and a new empire, seemed sure he'd dominate the young MAGA woman. But Leavitt, armed with her Catholic faith and unwavering loyalty to Trump, saw this as her moment to prove him wrong. She was ready to turn the stage into her battlefield. This wasn't just another debate. It was her chance to take control and steal the spotlight from De Niro. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with the latest stories. The studio was lit brightly, and the audience fell silent as Robert De Niro, dressed in a sleek black suit, stood at the center. His posture was strong, and his gaze, cold and sharp, reminded many of the Vito Corleone he had once portrayed. The camera panned slowly, with scattered applause rising from the liberal side as Sean Hannity looked on. Robert De Niro stepped up as Sean Hannity introduced him. Hollywood legend, never afraid to speak his mind, Robert De Niro. With a quick nod, he grabbed the mic and wasted no time, launching straight into his attack. "I'm here to say one thing." His deep voice resonated. "Donald Trump is the biggest disaster America has ever seen, and Karoline Leavitt, this Gen Z kid, is his newest puppet, a mouthpiece who can barely go beyond reading the scripts Trump hands her." The crowd erupted. MAGA supporters whistled in protest, while liberals clapped wildly. The air in the studio grew tense. De Niro leaned forward, raising his left hand like a seasoned stage actor, his eyes sweeping the audience. "You think I'm kidding?" He smirked, his thick New York accent sharp. "I've seen guys like Trump, con men, all flash and no substance. I've played gangsters in movies, but Trump, he's the real gangster, and Leavitt, she's just a childish lackey. She's 27. She hasn't lived enough to understand what's really going on, and yet she stands here before the nation as a spokesperson for a clown." Laughter roared from the liberal side, and a few people held up their phones, knowing this moment would go viral. De Niro didn't stop. He stepped to the side, pointing straight at the camera, as if speaking directly to Leavitt backstage. "She's the youngest press secretary in history, right? Sounds nice, but what has she done besides cover for Trump? Look at the signal leak. She accidentally let the world see Trump's plans by adding a reporter to the chat. I'm not sure if she's incompetent or doing it on purpose, but if that's how she represents the American people, we're in big trouble." The crowd erupted in laughter, with someone shouting, "Right on, Bobby!" De Niro shrugged, a smirk curling his lips, as if he'd just landed a perfect shot without even trying. Sean Hannity tried to cut in. "Bob, she's coming out to face you right now. What do you think?" But De Niro interrupted immediately, his voice cutting sharper than ever. "Face me? I'd love that. I want to see her try to explain how she justifies being Trump's puppet, a guy I've been calling a danger for years." He paused for a moment, his eyes cold. "I stood outside his courthouse, told the crowd straight to their faces he's unfit to lead, and now he's back with a Gen Z kid as his megaphone. It's shameful." He waved his hand dismissively. The audience was divided, half cheering, half booing, the noise overwhelming the room. De Niro paced the stage, his voice dropping low, dripping with drama, almost like his character in Taxi Driver. "You know, I'm not just talking for fun. I've seen America for decades. I grew up on real streets, not fake mansions like Trump. I make movies. I built new. I live real. Trump, he just destroys. And Leavitt, she's the young face he uses to fool people. Like, look at me. I'm modern, but she's not fooling me." De Niro continued. "She's got Catholic faith, prays every day. Fine. But if she's praying to cover for Trump, even God can't save her." Laughter erupted again, louder this time, with a few people standing to clap. De Niro paused, turning toward the backstage where Leavitt waited. "Karoline, I know you hear me," he said, his voice dripping with challenge. "You tweet that you're not afraid of anyone, that you'll defend Trump at all costs. So come out here. I want to hear you. No edits, no scripts, just the truth. But I'll warn you, I don't go easy. I've fought bigger than you my whole life, from film sets to politics, and I've never lost." He pointed toward the wings, the crowd roaring with applause, the tension hanging thick in the air like a taut string. De Niro sat down, tapping the table lightly, a smug grin spreading across his face. "She wants to be Trump's mouthpiece? Fine, but don't expect me to stay quiet when she steps out. I'm here to expose Trump, Leavitt, the whole crew. This isn't a movie. It's real, and I'm going to show the country how she falls." He winked at Hannity, who laughed loudly. "Karoline, you hear that? He's ready." The crowd cheered, phones raised high, all eyes locked on the wings where Leavitt was preparing to emerge. Backstage, Karoline Leavitt stood behind the curtain, the stage lights casting a faint glow on her face. Darrow's words echoed in her mind. Gen Z puppet, clueless kid. Each one felt like a dagger, but she didn't tremble. Her deep blue suit was a symbol of her resolve, her faith, and her commitment to standing firm. This was her moment. Her suit hugged her frame perfectly, blonde hair neatly tied back, fists clenched, and eyes burning with intensity. This was her turf, Fox News, a place where she'd already appeared on Fox and Friends, and she wasn't about to let Robert De Niro walk all over her. She turned to her assistant, her voice sharp as ever. "Where's that old De Niro clip?" The assistant quickly held up an iPad. "Here, he praised Obama in 2016, and now he's contradicting himself." Leavitt smirked, clearly ready. "Perfect. Send it to production. I want it on screen when I step out." As she stepped onto the stage, the lights hit her full force. Her high heels clicked against the floor, and her deep blue suit accentuated her determined frame. The ad break music faded, and Sean Hannity raised his hand, preparing to introduce her. "And here's Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary, ready to face Robert De Niro." The crowd went wild, MAGA supporters clapping loudly, liberals whistling in mockery. Leavitt nodded slightly toward Hannity, her eyes scanning the room before locking onto De Niro. He sat there, arms crossed, smirk still in place, expecting her to break under his earlier attack. But Leavitt wasn't there to be defeated. She was there to turn the tables. Gripping the microphone, she stood tall, her voice clear and unwavering. "Mr. De Niro, I heard everything you just said. Gen Z puppet, clueless kid. You think you can stand there with your 2 Oscars and Goodfellas voice and humiliate me and President Trump in front of the nation?" The room fell silent for a brief moment, stunned by her unshakable confidence. De Niro raised an eyebrow, smirking, but Leavitt didn't give him a chance to interrupt. "You call Trump a gangster and me a childish lackey," she began, her voice steady and sharp. "But have you looked at yourself lately? A Hollywood legend living in luxury thanks to news hospitality, starring in flops like The Alto Nights, and you have the audacity to talk about failure." The MAGA side erupted in applause, some even standing to cheer. Leavitt stepped closer to the table, her gaze locked on De Niro with unwavering intensity. "You've made millions playing tough guys on screen, but in real life, you're just an outdated relic who doesn't understand the American people." The applause grew louder. She didn't stop there. "You mocked me over the signal leak. Fine, I didn't run that chat. But let me ask you, Mr. De Niro, what do you know about accountability? You stood outside Trump's courthouse, called him a malignant narcissist. But have you ever looked in the mirror?" She gave a quick signal to production, and the big screen lit up. An old clip from 2016 played. De Niro, in a gray suit, grinning on CNN. "I like how Obama handles things. He's smart, he's got vision." The clip froze, and Leavitt turned to face him, voice cutting through the silence. "That's you, praising Obama, the man Trump beat to bring the change millions of Americans wanted. So, tell me, who's the real hypocrite here?" The crowd erupted, applause and whistles shaking the studio. Leavitt's voice rang out again. "I may be young, but at least I'm not pretending like you." De Niro gripped his chair, face flushing, clearly caught off guard by this 27-year-old. De Niro opened his mouth, ready to fire back, but Leavitt cut him off, her voice sharp and unwavering. "I'm not done, Mr. De Niro." She paused, letting the tension build. "You say I'm Trump's puppet. I'm here because I believe in what we're doing, making America strong again, from the economy to the border. And you? Who do you represent besides Hollywood elites? You live in mansions, open no restaurants, while I grew up in New Hampshire in a middle-class family, knowing exactly what Americans need. So tell me, who's really out of touch?" The MAGA crowd erupted, chanting, "Karoline! Karoline!" from every corner of the room. Hannity laughed, raising a hand, trying to calm the room. But Leavitt wasn't finished. She stepped closer, pointing directly at De Niro. "You mock my faith. Say I pray to cover for Trump. I pray for strength. Strength you'll never understand, because you only play tough on screen. I don't need Oscars to prove myself. I've got the American people behind me." The applause spread like wildfire across the studio, even some neutrals nodding, caught up in her momentum. De Niro leaned back in his chair, hands trembling, his smug grin vanishing and replaced by an unmistakable unease. Leavitt leaned forward, her voice low but cutting through the mic. "You want unedited truth? Here's the truth. Trump won because the people chose him, not you. I'm 27, but I've worked for him since college, from the White House to the campaign. I'm not a puppet. I'm a voice for millions. And you? You're done, Mr. De Niro. The Alto Nights lost $40 million. De Niro shot to his feet, pointing at her with a sneer. "You think you've got it all figured out, huh? I've faced tougher opponents than you in my time." But his words faltered, the force behind them dissipating. The crowd's whistles rang out, mocking him. Leavitt's smile remained small but confident, never breaking eye contact with him. "Go ahead, face whoever you want, but today, you've lost. I'm not here for your entertainment. I'm here to expose how wrong you are." She turned toward the audience, lifting a hand. "Who here agrees that Mr. De Niro should call it a day and retire?" The room erupted in cheers, claps, and whistles, filling the air with a triumphant sound. Hannity leapt to his feet, clapping and laughing. Karoline, you've just taken this stage. Leavitt settled back into her seat, legs crossed, her gaze unwavering. Dyro glared at her, gripping the chair's armrests, his face flushed with embarrassment. You've got skills, he muttered under his breath, just loud enough for the mic to catch. But I'm not finished yet. Leavitt gave a casual shrug, her tone laced with challenge. Neither am I, Mr. Darrow. Go ahead, ask me anything. The clip of Leavitt playing the old video and delivering the "You're done" line spread like wildfire across the web, quickly shared by Fox News team. Within moments, Leavitt Strikes Back began trending on X, with viewers at home sharing it non-stop. Dyro sat there, his eyes darkening, clearly unprepared for the counter-strike. Thanks to Fox News' reach and Leavitt's sharp wit and loyalty to Trump, she had turned his attack into a springboard for her victory. It wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a complete takedown, and the nation was captivated. The crowd watched in disbelief as a Gen Z star took down a Hollywood legend, live on air. Robert De Niro sat across from Karoline Leavitt, his hands gripping the chair's arms tightly, his face flushed as if his 81-year reputation had been slapped in public. His eyes darkened. The smug grin he'd worn earlier vanished, replaced with a mixture of anger and confusion. Leavitt had transformed him from a Hollywood icon into nothing more than a punchline. "You're done," she had said, each word digging into his pride. "You live in luxury mansions." Shan Hannity, still between them, burst into laughter. "Bob, you got anything to say? She just lit this studio up." But Darrow didn't laugh. Taking a deep breath, he stood, pointing directly at Leavitt, his voice trembling, yet trying to hold on to its usual authority. "You think you're so smart, kid?" he growled, his iconic deep voice now strained with frustration. "You dare stand here in front of me, using old clips to lecture me? Who do you think you are, saying I'm done?" The room fell silent for a moment, everyone waiting for his sharp comeback, but his words lacked their usual weight. Leavitt remained calm, her legs crossed, her gaze unflinching. "You're Trump's puppet," she shot back, unwavering. "I was right," Darrow pressed on, hand raised dramatically, as if on a Broadway stage. "You're 27, haven't lived long enough to know what's what, and you dare come on Fox News to teach me about truth? I've seen guys like Trump, he's a menace, and you're just his megaphone." Mocking whistles echoed from the MAGA side, with a few voices shouting, "Sit down, Bob." Dyro spun toward them, his eyes blazing with defiance. "You want me quiet? I won't shut up." Darrow stood his ground, eyes burning with defiance. "I'm here for the truth," he declared, his voice trembling but desperate to sound strong. "Trump's unfit, and so is she." His words faltered, lacking the conviction he usually carried, and laughter broke out in the studio. Hannity quickly interjected, raising a hand to calm the situation. "Bob, cool it." Leavitt smirked, leaning forward. "How do you answer that clip?" she asked, her tone cutting through the tension. Dyro shot a pointed look at the dark screen where the clip had just played, his frustration palpable. "So what? I can change my mind," he retorted, his voice strained. "I'm not a puppet like her, reading Trump's script word for word." The crowd erupted louder than before, with someone from the MAGA side shouting, "Really done now, Bobby?" Leavitt didn't miss a beat, her faint smile growing as she leaned in. "You want to talk about scripts? I don't need anyone to write my words," she said confidently. "But what about you, Mr. Dyro? You've lived off scripts your whole life. The Godfather, The Irishman. I'm here because I believe in what I say." The applause from the MAGA side grew louder, the energy in the studio rising. Dyro's face turned beet red, his hands trembling as he gripped the microphone tightly. "Don't get cocky with me," he shot back, his voice strained. "I built my career from nothing in Little Italy, not thanks to Trump or Fox News. I've got films. What do you have, besides a mouth reading his orders?" But the MAGA crowd's applause drowned him out, and another round of laughter erupted as someone yelled, "The Alto Knights lost 40 million, Bob!" Hannity sat back, laughing along with the crowd, as the tension in the room grew more intense. "Loudly, Karoline, you've got him fired up now." Hannity chuckled, watching Dyro's face redden. Dyro turned to Hannity, his voice sharp. "She's not firing me up, she's just an arrogant kid," he snapped, his frustration palpable. "I've been fighting Trump since she was in diapers. I stood outside his courthouse, spoke directly to the crowd, and her? She just prays and covers up for him." But his words lacked the usual bite. Leavitt, unshaken, replied with calm confidence, "I pray for strength, Mr. Darrow. What do you pray for when the Alto Knights flopped so hard?" The audience erupted in laughter, and Dyro, taken aback, dropped the mic on the table, his gaze empty, trying to recover from the blow. The commercial break hit, but the drama didn't end. When the show resumed, Dyro still sat there, struggling to regain his composure. "I'm not done," he muttered, glaring at Leavitt. "You want to play this game? I'll show the country who you really are, a childish opportunist." But his voice was shaky, and the audience's cheers had long faded. Hannity raised an eyebrow, looking at Darrow, then at Leavitt. "Bob," he said, matter-of-factly, "she scored points. What have you got to turn this around?" Darrow paused, his expression dark. "I don't need to turn it around," he said said quietly, his confidence wavering. "I'm Robert De Niro, and she's nothing." After the show, De Niro left the studio, his expression grim. His team rushed to keep up as he stormed out. He climbed into the car, pulled out his phone, and typed a tweet from his official account. "Karoline Leavitt is arrogant, but Trump's puppet." Robert De Niro's face flushed as the tweet went live, his fingers trembling with frustration. "Still the biggest danger. I didn't lose today," he typed, trying to salvage what was left of his pride. But seconds later, the first reply popped up from a MAGA account. "You lost, Bob. Go retire." De Niro threw his phone onto the passenger seat, his hands shaking, clearly unable to accept defeat. It was a bitter blow, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just been outclassed. The following day, he appeared on CNN, trying to regain some ground. "She thinks she's clever, but I've seen it all. I've fought Trump for years, and she's just his shadow." But even his words, delivered with his signature intensity, couldn't undo the damage done. Back at Fox News, as the stage lights dimmed, the echoes of applause and whistles still filled the studio. The crowd buzzed with excitement after the intense showdown between Karoline Leavitt and Robert De Niro. Leavitt sat across from De Niro, legs crossed, her gaze steady and confident. A faint smile played on her lips, like a gladiator savoring victory. De Niro, on the other hand, looked every bit the defeated icon. His hands hung limply at his sides, his eyes darkened with the unmistakable signs of losing control over the narrative. Shan Hannity, ever the showman, stood between them, raising his hand in the air and laughing. "What did you just witness?" he asked, his voice tinged with amusement. Karoline Leavitt made this stage hers. The audience erupted one last time, MAGA supporters chanting, "Karoline, Karoline," while some liberals whispered in disbelief, shaking their heads. It was hard to believe the 81-year-old legend had been bested by a 27-year-old, but the drama didn't stop there. Minutes later, social media exploded. Fox News' production team quickly posted the highlight clip to X, and it went viral within seconds. The nation had picked its sides, and the conversation was only just beginning.